Oh, I hate that. You need to see what you're streaming before you stream.
Yeah.
Like, oh well.
All right. So we are here. We're on. We're live.
Hurrah! Woohoo!
Hurrah.
Hurrah! Hip hip! Hurrah! Hooray!
Hurrah.
I don't
Hooray.
know. Words. Words are hard.
Words are hard. Yes, they are.
It is
Good
Saturday.
evening,
It's too
everybody
early.
that is in the chat with us this evening. We've got Terry Murphy. We've got Jerry Knapp from 3D Printing and Painting. We've got David Harmon. Harmon, how did your live stream go yesterday? I know you guys were building the same thing I'm putting out on Tuesday. You beat me to the punch.
Oh.
Oh.
The ultimate betrayal.
There's Rasmus Wallen. We've got Rex Waldy. We've got Hoppy Mackey, or Hoppy Nacky. Morgan Pierce. Hello, sir. David Stockdale. Jake from State Farm. Hello, everybody. Want me to delete it?
Huh.
Want you to delete it?
No. We're laughing about the coincidence. We're totally cool with it. We still want to review the sprinters, so.
Yes. No, we want to review the printer, yeah. Just so you guys know, over here on this monitor is where I'm seeing your chat tonight. I'm kind of in a different location. I had to move all my cameras because this is now my painting tutorial area. And we're going to talk about that after we run the intro tonight. Let's just make sure that's all set to go. We are good there. Ben Brady, hello, sir. David Sell. I think I said David Sell. Joseph Porro, hello. You're new to our little group here. Mike Renshear, I hope I said that right. We got Julie Pierce. Hello, Julie. Raymond Emsley, two very great people that are always coming to the store. Thank you very much. Who else we got here? We got Fossil 125, Terry Murphy, CDA here. Oh, CDA. Is that like Canada? No, that was CRA, Canada Revenue Agency. Yeah. CDA. Yes, I broke my paw. Johnny Gardner, hello, sir. We're just going to take a couple minutes here and just welcome everybody before we run the intro. We are back. Things are going to slowly start getting back on schedule. Bryan and I, me more so than
How to
Bryan.
explain that?
Bryan and I have had very rough weeks in the last 2 weeks. We've been behind on getting stuff out. He was so busy last Saturday when getting back from being out of town that he didn't have time to really get on to doing a live stream, and that's okay because it'll happen. And of course, I busted my paw. Yes, ouch. This is actually smaller now than what it was. I'm going in on Tuesday to have a proper cast fitted. What I did was I broke, I have what they call a boxer's fracture on my pinky. So it's the bone, the metacarpal bone right here that I broke, and there's a pin in it, and it's a real pain in the butt. Richard needs recovery bacon. Thanks, Bryan.
Yeah, I tried to super chat you, but apparently like, the computer's like, no, you have enough windows open, so you can't send it.
There you go.
Actually, I had to.
John Kitchen, hello, sir.
Too. Yeah.
Paul Cumber, somebody also who is new to us. There's Miles Clayton. Miles, another regular at our store. Spool 3D. Let's run the intro, and we're going to get into a whole bunch of stuff, so stick with us. Hey, welcome back to the First Layer. This is our TFL Live, which we do every Saturday night at 7 p.m. TFL Live is your chance to sit with us on a Saturday night and talk all about 3D printing. And with me, as always, is my good friend and co-host, Bryan Baker.
Hey, Richard, how's it going, buddy?
I'm no longer on drugs.
Okay, so you've gone from a physical ailment to a mental ailment, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, that's true. I finished the pain medication that they gave me, so now I'm just on normal drugs. Stuff you can get across the counter, stuff that won't make you sick.
Yeah. I hear that. You know, having a tonsillectomy last fall, I hear that completely. You don't realize. I don't know about you, but for me, I didn't feel the whimsical side effects of those medications, but I sure felt nothing. So all of a sudden, it's like, oh yeah, those things have feelings.
You know, that was really weird. It's funny that you're saying that because on this medication, that tramadol, I think they call it, I felt nothing. Like I just nothing. I had no emotions. I was like a Vulcan in a pissed off mood. No motion, no nothing, and I was always tired, and so I had to take a couple days off, of course, from work. And on Tuesday, there's a brand new episode coming out. We're going to talk about that. Want to welcome the boys from Lethbridge over at Make It 3D. God, I hope I got that right.
I think you did. I think we're good.
Yeah. They did their first live stream last night, I believe. And they've got some viewers, and we're glad that they got some views, and we're going to try and help them out as well because they're good friends of ours. And we want to get them as many views as we can. And, you know, everybody just starting out in 3D printing and YouTubing like we do, I encourage it. I really do. Nobody, in my opinion, and Bryan, I'm sure you can agree with me, that nobody is our competition.
Absolutely. No, it's a weird scene for us, bear in mind. And the reason why we don't talk too often with the other YouTubers is because they're basically half a world away from us. So, you know, anybody that we find out in Canada, especially, we are 100% in for all supporting each other. And then with the American guys, it's hard for these wackos up north here to start, you know, popping into their space. So, you know, we all kind of work together. We're not stepping on each other's feet. It's all just kind of fun.
Yeah, I agree. We are wackos up here in the north. I'm with you right there on that one, buddy. But tonight we're going to talk about some stuff that's going on with the channel, some stuff that's coming up starting on Monday. And so we kind of want to play catch up tonight, but we are going to answer your questions about 3D printing and painting and finishing, and whatever you guys want to ask us, we will most certainly try and answer your question to the best of our ability. We do have Super Chat turned on down at the bottom of the chat there, so if anybody would like to throw some coffee money our way, we would really appreciate that.
I told you that's bacon money.
Bacon
money tonight.
Bacon money tonight. Yes, it goes a long way into helping us keep our hardware up to date, keep our software up to date, be able to bring you guys some new stuff, because everything that we get from Spool 3D, even though they kind of sponsor us, we pay for. So it all comes out of our pocket. So. Yes, they give us a room. Yes, we have access to printers, but at the end of the day, any of the consumables like the filaments and things like that, it's very rare that they'll throw us a bone and give us a roll of filament to use on the show. So we do pay for that, just so you guys know. And everything down below here, I'm going to quickly switch to my desktop camera and just kind of show you guys this. Down here is where I'm going to be doing all the tutorials for painting. So I've got all my paints in front of me. I've got all of my Valeos here. I've got my brushes over here in a brush stand that I 3D printed, by the way. And right now I've got a keyboard in front of me. So this is just so that I can use it with the chat and that kind of stuff. Yeah, I know it's kind of blowing out. I do apologize for that. I didn't set the white balance on this, but I will go back to this now. There we go. We're back where we should be. I should have set the white balance on this, and I didn't. I apologize. But anyway,
that's okay. We're all winging everything tonight. Maybe
that's it.
You know, I'm sure questions have been always coming up about what kind of setups we're running to give people an idea. And I'm just going to quickly try and set up my OBS with my third camera. I don't know. I got too many cameras here, and I can kind of show you guys the whack job setup I built over here. But what camera are you running off there tonight, Richard?
I am running off of two C920, Logitech C920s. Or no,
nice.
Are they 920s or 930s? 920s. Yes, they're 920s.
920s. The 30s are silver, which I will show you the guys. that one in a moment.
So we're running two C920s here in my home studio. At the studio, at Spool 3D, of course, we're running much bigger cameras and different setup there. Well, somewhat of a different setup, but for the most part, it's almost identical except for the cameras and the way that
We're
we
getting close to
ingest
unifying
video.
it.
Yeah, we are. What we will be doing in the future, of course, is trying to bring 4K to our platform. Right now, everything is 1080p. And for those of you that don't understand audio video, that's okay, because it just means that we'll be able to bring you a cleaner, better picture overall as we grow with our equipment and all of our other stuff here. So let's talk about Bryan's stuff. Well, I'm going to go to Bryan's camera here, and we'll just go straight to Bryan.
So I'm just running the secondary camera around the room. This is the C930, which I just picked up one of these this week, and it's got surprisingly good video quality and wide range. But you can see I've just kind of hacked together. I've got my old Rebel T2i, and I love this camera, but you'll see later it's going to start overheating when I'm running everything. I got one monitor behind me with YouTube chat, which is why you guys keep seeing me look up there. I've got my second monitor, which will show all the Fusion stuff. And then today I just bought myself this big light box here that's running off a light bulb with a 3D printed bracket in the back to hold it all up. So, I mean, I don't have a lot of workspace here. You can see everything's crammed together with, ooh, preview. Here's my Ender 3 Dual that's still in the works. But nonetheless, you know, that's how it's going. And you can see I'm already overheating my poor camera, but that's that's just the nature of the sensor. I didn't have time to install a fan yet to cool it, because getting an SLR that works with this capture equipment, surprisingly hard, at least without spending, you know, $1,200, which I'm not going to do for one show a week.
Yeah, I hear you.
But that camera you saw there, this little guy, the C930E, it's meant for business, primarily for meetings and stuff. So it's got a wide angle, doesn't have nearly as much control as the 920, but it's a darn good camera. And then in this pile below me here is the 920. If you are going to be a streamer, honestly, it's not a bad way to start. I was surprised with the quality of that thing. I was just fighting with it saving settings. So we got a first question of the night here from Phantom Tech Ghost Gear.
Okay.
I have a Creeality CR10S. My print keeps acting like there's a dip in the glass, so I switched recently to another hard surface, but I'm still getting the same dips. Is it still possible, even using a hard surface such as glass, that my metal plate might be the issue? Seems like the hard surface plate would still be level across any imperfections.
Here is the thing. If you've chosen to use glass, glass is not always perfect. And unfortunately, that's just the nature of it. Although we all say that glass is perfectly smooth, it is not. It can also have dips and humps as well, depending on which side you're using. And if it does have a bit of a dip in it, what I would do is I would take that glass, put it on a very flat surface, and then just see if any of the corners have lifted, and just go around each corner and just kind of hit each corner and see if you're getting a little bit of a rocking motion. If you're not, flip it over and do it again. And you may find that your glass has a bow or a dip in it as well. Now, with that said, I always recommend people, if they're buying a CR10, go to Lowe's, go to Home Depot, buy yourself a pack of 12-inch by 12-inch mirrors, not the beveled decorative kind, just the straight mirror tiles, and use one of those on your heated bed, and that should take care of your issue. Also, you may want to try re-leveling your bed as well with no glue stick on it, no hairspray, no adhesive. Just re-level the bed with the new mirror or glass, and make sure that your gantry, your X gantry, is level to the frame, because if it is not, that could be causing you issues as well.
Absolutely. And, you know, if all else fails, if it's the end of the world, I don't want to say if it's the end of the world, but it is much more expensive to get into the BL Touch. That will surprisingly overcome upwards of, well, right now, actually, I can probably show how badly bowed this this plate is that I'm printing on right now, and the VL Touch is overcoming a bump of I think like 0.5 millimeter. So it's doing okay. It's chunking away there, but yeah, that BL Touch was able to help overcome that blip. So that was great.
And you can see that
Dave
by
Harmon.
adding.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna. Dave Harmon just popped up with another question there of, have you guys done much with 3D scanning? And that's a perfect question for you to answer.
That is a perfect question for me to answer because yes, we have an episode coming out very soon. Our good friend Ben Eady over at Maker Hacks here on YouTube was in the studio last week and scanned my broken paw. And he scanned my arm like right down to the elbow. And we're going to use that detail to make up a 3D printed splint for this hand. Now, I am rocking a 3D printed splint now, which I just found on Thingiverse. I upscaled it to fit my fat hand or my fat head, depending on your point of view.
Depends on how we want to wrap you up for the day.
Yeah, exactly. And it does work. It took a little bit to get it into shape. I had to heat it a couple times. And how you heat PLA, this is just PLA in here, is print it off, put it in some boiling water or boil some water, take the pot off the stove, put your piece into it, take it out, and you can mold it. As soon as you see it go flaccid, for lack of a better term, take it out and start to wrap it around, whatever you're going to wrap around to mold it into the shape that you want. I had to do a couple of attempts because this has a couple of little pokey bits that were annoying me, but I did get it to the shape that I want. It fits perfectly right now, and all I have to use is just the one wrap. So
hey,
yes,
works,
we are going to be talking about how to use, and this is the best part, an Xbox 360 Connect with your PC and some free software on how you can do 3D scanning.
That's awesome because I was just at the pawn shop the other day and they're still selling those for $15.
We should grab a couple more.
Yeah, we should. I'm still trying to go with the Xbox One route, but it's the software. It's not the hardware.
No, so, you need the Xbox version, the Xbox 360 version 1 Connect to make it work right. So it is a little bit of a limitation in hardware.
Right. Johnny Gardner, which leveling setup did you use for your BL Touch and Marlin? For me, bilinear. I do not like that unified. I don't know why, but it kind of has to do with how I'm doing each print job. I'm actually doing a bed leveling every time, and it works perfectly. How about you, Richard?
I use unified bed leveling at the shop because I want to get to know it a little bit more. With unified, all you basically have to do is go in, set it, and forget it. Because once you've got that stored, and there's plenty of storage space on your on the unified bed leveling, if you set it up right in Marlin, you can store different profiles. So right now I have a profile stored. Whenever I start the printer, it doesn't have to do a G29, which would be an auto bed level. It just does its G28, and then it just starts printing, and it works fine. It is a little bit of a challenge to get it right because you do have to do a little bit of baby stepping and just fine tune it. But once you've got it fine tuned, you just save that profile and away you go.
Nice.
Hey, there's Ron,
Speaking
the Canadian Maker Project.
Ah, there he is. Hey, Ron, you've been trying to find that camera. If you ask me nicely, maybe I'll go pick up one this week and bring it out to you. But, you know, speaking of tuning in a printer, you're going to be able to do that firsthand with you soon, Richard, right?
Yes. Yes. Coming up on May 4th, I am going to be teaching a course on 3D printing. It's a one-day course. If you are new to 3D printing and you haven't bought a 3D printer yet, now is a great time to do it. Pre-orders have to be in by May 3rd on the Spool 3D website. Brian, if you can pull up a link to that and put it in the chat, that would be great. It is $449, and what you get in that is an Ender 3 Pro, an additional roll of filament other than what you get in the box, and that is a full 1 kilogram roll, of PLA. You'll also get an additional SD card, which will contain software that we're going to use in the course. It'll contain tips and tricks, PDFs, as well as all of the course material that we covered for the day. And there will be some special STLs that will help you with fine-tuning your 3D printer after the class is over. So when you get it home, you can print out some of these and just see exactly how good your printer is. That course, again, has to be, you have to pre-register for that and pre-order it by May 3rd because we've got very limited seating. We've got 12 seats only 12 students that we're allowing into the course, and 4 of those seats are already sold now, and they're starting to sell faster. So if you are interested in that, or you know somebody that wants to get into 3D printing, that's a perfect way for them to do it, because you're going to get me for a whole day from 9 in the morning to 4 in the afternoon.
That's awesome. Honestly, that's you basically make less than minimum wage on that. But it's a good bargain, honestly. If you're
it is a really good bargain.
At getting into it, because you're going to walk home with a functioning printer and all the techniques to get you started, which is
absolutely
real. I wish that option was out there back in 2016 when I started.
I wish it was out in 2016 when I was looking at 3D printing. I got into it in 2016, December of 2016.
I think you did, yeah.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, if that had been there, or somebody online had some sort of instructional videos, which nobody really does, but us. So if that information had been there, I probably would have had a much easier time getting into 3D printing. But this is really a unique opportunity for people to come, take part, build a machine with me, helping you every step of the way. We're going to do a first print. We'll break for lunch. So we'll let the print go during lunch. And then when we come back after our lunch break, that whole
hopefully not running for fire extinguishers.
Yeah. That whole afternoon is going to be all about Cura 4.0. So we're going to cover all the basics in Cura 4.0 and make sure that everybody is comfortable using the software so that they can go home, download whatever they want off of Thingiverse or My Mini Factory, and go ahead and start printing with confidence.
Julie Peace is saying, wish it was out last month. The logistics behind getting the classroom space and all this set up is surprisingly more difficult than you'd think.
Yeah.
But now that we've got, I think you said you're hosting it at SAIT, right?
Yeah, we're going to host it at SAIT, barring any catastrophes. If the class is too small, we may change venues. But if the class is, 6 or more, we are going to continue at SAIT because we really need that kind of space. So.
Absolutely. Everyone's talking about when they got their first 3D printers, like Paul saying he got his in 2012. You were an early adopter. Good for you.
Yeah. I can only imagine the problems you had when you started, because I know what I went through.
MakerBots, the wooden MakerBots.
Oh, yes. A good friend of mine, Leonard from, what is that gaming place downtown? Century Box.
Century Box, yeah.
Yeah, Century Box. Leonard's one of the owners of Century Box. He actually helped me a lot when I was getting started and wanting to build my very first 3D printer. And he had a MakerBot all made from wood, and it was kind of fascinating to watch it do what it did.
It's cool. They still work, too. We actually got one given to us at the previous Maker Fair in Calgary. The guy's like, it's just taking up room. We're like, yeah, we'll take it. So I have to check out with my buddy and see if he got it going.
There you go. If not, we can always bring it to the shop, and that would be an interesting episode.
Oh, absolutely. Terry Murphy said, my Ender 3 SD card reader has died. Can I use an SD to USB mini adapter to print via the USB port? Unfortunately, no.
That's just a definite no.
They are just two conflicting technologies, unfortunately. Yeah. You can go and get it started with a Raspberry Pi and print via USB, which I highly, highly, highly recommend now, because you're going to find it actually streams much better in many, many scenarios. And that's, with the new A Plus being only $30 Canadian, I think you can even get them cheaper down at Micro Center in the US. It's just the easy way to go.
Yeah, it is pretty. It's a pretty easy way to go if you don't have an SD card reader available to you on your board. If your board has, if the SD card reader has broken, boards, replacement boards for the Ender 3, they have a 1-year warranty. So
Hmm.
all the electronics on Creality products have a 1-year warranty. So if you should happen to get a broken SD card, check with the person that you bought it with. They may replace the board at zero cost to you, and if it's within that 1 year. If they don't, you didn't buy it at Spool 3D.
Hmm.
Because I know we've replaced boards like crazy. We send them back and we get credit for them, but it has to have been purchased through us. If it wasn't, I'm sorry. But we do have the boards available. And they're already pre-flashed, so you don't have to go and put any firmware on them.
I'm seeing the question get buried, but everyone's still talking about it. What do you know about the Bigtree Tech SKR 1.3 board? Now, I think we spoke about this a couple of weeks ago. There was a lot of
Yeah,
chatter about it because of how cheap it is. The 1.3 makes me wonder how close it actually is to the S base. And looking at the design on AliExpress, it does look it looks like almost a clone of the S base, except that it actually has the breakouts for your own steppers right on the board. And they're, what is it, $23 Canadian? That's not bad, honestly.
that's not bad for a board. I would be worried about its compatibility.
Yeah, I'm
And
just taking a look to see which processor it uses.
I would also be worried about its internal storage capability. Remember that when you're dealing with transferring information from your SD card to the board so that it can go ahead and do all the calculation and movement that it has to do, if there's not enough of a buffer available, you could end up with a bad print. You could end up with failed print. You can end up with the board just shutting down. And we've experienced that after we've tried to flash original Ender 3 boards. They are a very inexpensive board, but they don't have a lot of residual memory on them to keep that, or residual buffer memory, I should say, to handle the flow of information going in and out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I know there's a lot of talk about Marlin 2.0. That's the hot topic again this week.
Yeah,
The reality is there are a limited set of boards right now that have been kind of given the thumbs up from Scott and the team there for, you know, this is compiling, this is working. Just because it shares the same chip doesn't mean it's fully compatible. And
correct.
even with that, there still are some hurdles. So I'll give you guys a little update of what's been happening this week. I've had a lot of inconsistencies with my BL Touch on my CR10S Monster there, and that one runs the MKS S base on Marlin 2.0, which is still obviously in development. What I have found is that the BL Touch draws more power than what the board is actually designed to deliver at 5 volts. And you'll notice it if you have like an external screen hooked up that it may flicker when deploying the probe and other issues. So I've actually been working and talking a lot with the developers of the BL Touch to look into possible solutions. And one that I've actually done is it's soldered in my own buck regulator to drop my 12 volts going into the board down to 5 volts and feeding that independently. It doesn't stop the flicker, but I've actually noticed an improvement on my M48 probe repeatability tests. But when I metered that board, it was giving me, even with nothing loaded, 4.6 volts on the 5-volt bus.
Oh, wow.
Now, the MKS is known to be a knockoff of the smoothie boards, and I've heard recently there's a bit of drama going on with that. But that's one of the approved boards right now that is working. Um, Ron's saying my audio is coming in kind of hollow there. Is this better? I'm going to move in the mic and see if that's a little better for you. But basically, it's always a gamble, okay? I would have to say when you're buying these new branded boards, stick with the firmware that company has distributed because they know they've done some playing around with it.
Yeah.
And then anything else past that, the famous Canadian saying, your mileage may vary.
Exactly. I think you've hit the nail on the head there, and I think that's great information for anybody looking to put in a new board. One of the questions here is MKS Gen L. Yes. I am a huge fan of the MKS boards. Anybody that knows me knows that that's the first board I'll tell you to go to is an MKS board. It is still an 8-bit board. I've had some disagreements, we'll say, with people who are convinced that it's a 32-bit board. The MKS Gen L and all Gen boards are 8-bit boards, which are the typical boards that you're going to find in 98% of 3D printers on the retail market. 8-bit boards are fine. 32-bit boards are better. There's nothing in between. There's no 16-bit boards, but can you get away with an 8-bit board? Absolutely you can, because that's what this whole technology was originally built on. 32-bit boards are going to cost you significantly more, and unless you know what you're doing with Marlin, especially with 2.0, which now supports 32-bit boards, I'll let you laugh about that, and I'll give you a second to comment on that.
Yeah.
It is not worth, in my opinion, spending the money just yet. What I would say to you is, if you wanted to upgrade the board on your Ender 3 or on your CR10S, I would highly recommend the Gen L, so that you could put the MKS Gen L 1.4 or 1.3. So that
I think it's 1.4, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's 1.4 as well. So that you can go ahead and put trinamic drivers on it and make your printer truly silent. Go ahead, Brian.
Well, I was just going to say, because, you know, Marlin, it doesn't matter how experienced you are right now. Okay, Marlin 2.0, we're not even at a beta stage yet. Otherwise, you would see what they call a release candidate. The number of times I've had to reflash Marlin 2.0 by grabbing a new build of the day or even of the hour sometimes, it's a little intimidating to a lot of people. So yes, I'm running Marlin 2.0 on all but one of my machines, and the reason for that is consistency. At least I know which parameters I'm changing. The exception to the rule is my Ender 3 Pro, which is running probably now a very dated build of Clipper. Now, Clipper is interesting because it offloads all of your processing onto a Raspberry Pi so that the printer acts as just an interface device. And going forward, I think once Marlin 2.0 goes stable, I am going to recommend most people play with Clipper if they can on their 8-bit boards. And we'll probably get into that a little bit more in the future. I know a lot of people have covered it. But if there's any confusion about why you might want to go that route, let me know in the comments and we'll do a video on it. But Marlin 2.0, I got it running on an MKS, what is it here? One of the Gen V 1.4 boards, which is the same as the L, but a bit bigger with a bit more I/O. And it's been great. You know, it's just with an 8-bit board, you can't run every single feature that Marlin has. And that's probably not a bad thing, because as soon as you start getting a little bit giddy with junction deviation and linear advance and S-curves and all these other fun little things, you're going to start finding some wacky things happening on your printers. So it's probably a good thing that there's a little limited memory at times.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one.
Yeah, Ronnie Julian's asking, what do you think of the MKS Robin boards? I don't think I've seen anybody buy those.
We've sold a few. I haven't used one. I haven't experimented with it yet. I really should, though. We'll see what it's like. I will probably pull one out of inventory and purchase one and just try it, and play with it, and see what there's available. Stephen Snow, good to see you. Stephen's a new customer over at Spool 3D. We welcome him. Stephen, is there any advantage updating the firmware on my new CR10S Pro? Absolutely not.
Well, I'm hearing word that if you're going the official route, they did release a new firmware that's helping with that bed leveling sensor.
The problem, and I've always said this, with those bed leveling sensors is once they get warm or they get hot because of the extruder and because of the bed, they are inaccurate. So whatever fix they've done to it, unless you're getting really bad results, then I would say go ahead and upgrade with the official firmware. Don't go third party. Use the official firmware because that is the one that has been tailored to their hardware. Unless you know what you're doing with firmware, I would just use the official firmware updates if there is one.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think they dropped an official firmware update. Actually, just in general, if you did not know this, especially if you have a CR10S and you're still running stock firmware, I don't know why you're still running stock firmware, but Creeality dropped a bunch of firmware updates about a month ago that updated everything to Marlin 1.1.6 and turned on thermal runaway. So if you're a little uncomfortable getting into this whole Marlin thing and you want to stick to 100% factory, that's on you. But there is options out there to stay with the official route and to get an improved firmware.
There you go. I'm running all of those, Brian, on a stock Ender 3 board. That comes from David Stockdale. I guess he's running...
Yeah, he's running Clipper and modified Marlin and all that stuff. I can probably... Let me see if I can find mine here. I can show us on the window in between here. This is fine with the split. But down in there somewhere is the
Here, I'll
1.4 board. Okay.
There we go.
Yeah, down in this pile of mess of wires here is that 1.4 board. The reason this machine is no longer on the stock board was for two reasons. Number one, because I am running 2 extruders on this machine. It's still a work in progress. And the second reason is because, if you notice, they're all running Trinamics in SPI software mode. So this machine is silent, and I can go and change all the settings on the fly. So there is reasons to change boards. I would definitely say if you're changing Marlin to a newer version, yeah, you don't have to change out the board. My Ender 3 Pro here is still running the 1.1.3 board with Clipper running, and it works great. So as you can see, it's actually chunking away right now behind me on this new design of something that I don't know why this just came to me in the past hour. I'm going to call my new designs here stupid but simple. And that one right there that you're seeing was a little bracket that you can screw in with M4 bolts onto your extruded frame to hold your calipers, digital calipers. It's simple, it's stupid, it's small, it works. So
there
yeah,
we go.
That's my fun day.
Ken Jantz is asking, is the updates for Ender 3 also? I don't know. I have to check. Brian, you may know. I don't know if they've all been updated, but
it is. But the reason I specifically did not mention the Ender 3 Pro is, and the Ender 3 is because any of these 1284p boards, to fit Marlin on there, they don't put the Arduino bootloader on there. So it's not just as simple as plugging in a USB cable and updating. You got to buy the FTDI or the SPI programming module from AliExpress, wait there, and then make sure you hook it up the right way. It's just not something you could do tonight. So that's why I'm a little cautious on that. I mean, I still recommend it, but it's a little more, I'm going to say a little more invasive than your standard firmware flash for a CR10S or a CR10S Pro or any of the newer printers with the 2560 Atmel chip.
There you go. Canadian Maker Project, our good friend Ron out in Ontario. Your thoughts on the Creeality 1.1.4 with the new Trinamic 2208 drivers? The board itself, I think, is a step forward for them. Yes, it makes the machine quiet. Can you put that board in any other Creeality product? No. You can't, well, I suppose you could, but you'd have to do some firmware tweaking to go from the Pro down to a CR10S. And if you know Marlin, then by all means go ahead. If you don't, if you're really new to that sort of thing, then I would not do that. I still think you're better off in the long run getting something where you can replace drivers. I've never been a big fan of drivers that are soldered to the board, because if a driver goes, the whole board is crap. If you've got ones with replaceable stepper drivers, if the stepper driver goes, you simply unplug it, throw it out, put a new one in, and you're back and up and running in no time. So it's a pretty much a better fix in that respect. It makes it a little bit more user friendly.
No, I fully agree with you there. The built-in stepper model is not really a good route. Now, there is one benefit if you want to go that route. Again, if you buy that 1.1.4 board and your Ender 3 board is gone, or your CR10 original without the dual Z, if that's gone, that is a board you can pick up, take home, and usually drop into your machine. I say usually because, and Richard will attest to this, we've seen a couple boards come from the factory that forgot to be flashed. They were blank.
Yep.
So, I mean, your mileage may vary again, but if you have your printer goes dead, and here's another shout out for poor Derek there. If you're in Calgary, your printer goes dead in the middle of a weekday because he doesn't like to work weekends, you can walk in there, buy a new one of these boards, take it home, and it's pretty much plug and play.
Right.
So there is a benefit that route. Now, the 2208s, I'm on the fence. I do like them. However, I've been noticing a few issues, notably with anything high current. So your Z drivers and your extruder. The Trinamics are great at keeping things silent, but just as with Noctua fans, there's a sacrifice there, and that sacrifice is max power output. Okay, yep. So I've got my drivers running at about 1.1 volts, and I have actually a desk fan, like an 8-inch fan, blowing on them all the time because they run so hot at that low voltage. When I had it on the extruder, I was having my extruder skip a lot more often, bouncing back, because the holding current with the micro stepping was not enough to overcome the back pressure of the filament. So I actually went back to the DRV 8825 for the extruder on my CR10S Monster about 3 days ago to help overcome some of the issues I was having. So seeing that Creeality went all in on that board, that seems a little uninformed, I guess. Maybe for an Ender 3 it'll be all right, but the moment you go to an all-metal hot end and you can encounter a little bit more resistance, I think you might start seeing problems arise with that 1.1.4 board.
I think you might as well. Again, it doesn't have the benefit of removable stepper drivers, and to me that's a big problem. I use 2208s on the Gen L. As Bryan knows, I use the 2208s for my X, Y, and Z axis, and I can tell you that they do run hot. I've got that set up on the Ender 3 in my office at Spool 3D, and I will tell you that they do run hot. And at the end of the day, I've only got them set to, I think, 5.4 volts per stepper. But even at that, they are running really, really hot. If I go below that, I get all kinds of problems. So is it a benefit to putting a new board in your machine? There are some. Are you going to wear your motors faster? There's a possibility, because when these motors get too hot, they start to break down. When they start to break down, you're going to encounter that both in noise coming from the stepper, and you're also going to see that in your print. I would recommend that if you are going to do something like that, over the long term, not over the short term, but over the long term, maybe think about switching out your motors to a higher quality motor. That way they won't get nearly as hot.
And you're absolutely right. You know, these external steppers, it is so easy to swap them when they break. And
Yeah.
you know, maybe I'll do an episode here soon if you guys are interested on how to hook up external steppers to most printers, and I say, or most boards. The reason I say that, because some of them, they have the slots on them. Others, they don't, but they actually have a breakout option, which is what I did on the MKS S-Base. So that's how I am running Trinamics on the S-Base, is through this breakout board. The wiring, yeah, it's a shamble, but hey, it works really, really well. And if one fails, number one, I can actually fall back to the stock steppers on the board in an instance. I just have to do a firmware modification. And if one dies, well, it's just plug and play with a new one.
Yeah, exactly. I want to take a quick reason. Reason here is because of money. Okay. I installed the MKS Gen board with 22/8. Very quiet. Yes, it is, Larry. I can attest to that. Ben says, Christy says hello. Hello, Christy. Agreed. Worried that it might have extruder issues. David Stockdale. David, I don't run a 2208 on my extruder. I run the, what is it, 27 or 2970 something, or 2791 or something like that. It is a.
Oh, you run the LRV 7279 or whatever it is, right?
Yeah, yeah, the LRV one. That's what I
Right.
put on my extruder because the extruder doesn't need to have a silent stepper. Even though that the LRV is quite a silent stepper, it's that I think my extruder doesn't get really warm at all. And I think it's a much better and cleaner signal that's going to the extruder through the LRV chip.
And so I was just quickly checking into it because, again, this 1.1.4 board's kind of a new thing. And, you know, shameful plug for him here. I take a quick look at Teaching Tech's video there just now. Looks like that board does have a potentiometer on the board for each stepper, so you can adjust the voltage. But I'm going to, you know, advise you to be very careful on that. But if you are starting to see extrusion issues, that's the first place I would go with a 2208 is go and check the voltage, the V reference on that extruder stepper. Mark Hart, can an Ender 3 be converted to dual extrusion? And if so, which dual extruder would you recommend? Well, sir.
Yes,
all right.
It can.
You guys promised not to steal my design, right? Because yeah, here it is so far. And this is running on an Ender 3. It's far from stock, but it's coming together very slowly. I'm going to say the design I'm going, it might change drastically, but for now I have two E3D Lite 6s on here, cooled independently. I don't have any part cooling because I forgot to design that in the first place. My build volume shrunk down quite a bit, and then going right up to the top, I have dual extruders mounted, dual extrusion motors, with just some standard Ender 3 brackets up there with a lot of random wiring. So that's where she's sitting at right now. It does exist. Now this one here, it is one of the, it's a dual material or multiple material compatible. And the reason I went that route was because I wanted to do dissolvable filaments. I've seen a couple companies, you know, TH3D is one. I've seen a couple other companies that are making retrofits of the Creeality boards to support dual extruders, but everyone's going to a mixing head. So the mixing heads, they require huge purge blocks. They have all these other little issues. I wouldn't personally recommend it unless you want to just do two colors of the same material. But I find with that, the niche wears off quickly. So if the answer is I want to use a dual extruder to do washable, dissolvable filaments, then you have to go with a two heads. So the one that you just saw there is based off two heads on the same carriage. But what I've seen lately, and I don't think, Richard, you haven't spoken much about that Flash Forge, have you?
I haven't spoken anything about that Flash Forge, and there's a couple of reasons for that.
But regardless, their design is something I'm seeing more common in the industry out there right now, which is you actually have a hot end mounted on each end of your gantry, and it's got a parking point. And so when it switches nozzles, it brings this one out and prints across and so forth. Then it takes it, parks it back, and then brings the other one in from the other side on a separate carriage. And I'm seeing a lot more printers coming out with that now. So I think that's going to be what we're going to see going forward. So I'm looking at if I can actually modify this design for that. But right now, I think it's better that I try and complete this design. But there is a major flaw with it, and you guys are welcome to pipe in on your thoughts on this. But the gantry itself, even if I use the ABL probe in the center, it doesn't account for the vertical offset between the two nozzles. I don't have a machining shop. I can't do this out of aluminum or any material like that, and I can't get that precision down to 0.0001 millimeters. So I have to try and figure out if I can create an adjustable bracket to move the nozzles up and down to create a more balanced one. Otherwise, I might have one that's perfect that may not work with you or the next person's printer. So it's a constant battle. There's a reason I haven't spoken about it in a few weeks, and it's because there are a lot of engineering hurdles to overcome, so I haven't had much more to present it. Mark Hart, I will be definitely posting a video on this once it is production ready, because I don't want to release the part on Thingiverse and then have a bunch of you spend all this money on your printer and it works as well as this beta does right now.
There you go.
Prints one color beautifully, but two colors, well.
One of the things that came in here was, let me just think. I install heat sinks on steppers. Cool's great. On stepper motors or on stepper drivers. I've never put a heat sink on a stepper motor, but I always put heat sinks on my stepper drivers. So hopefully that answered the question, Larry.
I don't think you can see it on my camera here. Maybe just let's see if when this bed goes forward here, you can leave it on this split shot is fine, because you'll probably see it sitting right on the floor or right on the table, right behind. This is my new benchmark for this printer, by the way. I'm printing that high detailed moon from Thingiverse. Can we see it? Can we see it? Maybe? Yeah, you see that one of those white squares back there? Yeah, that's the stepper motor cooler that fell off because the glue melts at a certain temperature.
There you go.
They don't stick very well.
There you go. So that pretty much answers that. I did put a link for anybody that is interested in the chat to the Ender 3 Build and Learn coming up on May 4th at SAIT. So if you're in the Calgary, Lethbridge, Red Deer, Edmonton areas or surrounding areas around Calgary, and you want to take part in that because you want to get into, you can go and check out that link that I put into the chat. Super chat is still on for anybody interested. We are working on some stuff because we're getting pretty close to the end of the show here. I just want to talk quickly about some of the stuff that we're working on. Nothing is set in stone, but we are still working on doing something related to convention of some sort. We don't know if it's going to happen this year as much as we'd like it to. There's just time is just running out. Again, we aren't at the Calgary Comic and Entertainment Expo for anybody that is going there this next couple of weeks. So you won't see us there, unfortunately. I'm not even going as a guest. I'm boycotting.
Not for $50 a day either.
So Jim says he saw a video today with a motor with a heatsink and a fan assembly. That would be interesting. I think I'll have to go and have a look at that one. But I don't think
you know at that point
fans.
though. Yeah, we should take just a moment to talk about that. I'm going to tell you guys right now, with the Trinamics, it's probably better that your stepper runs hot over your actual motor. And if you tune those voltages incorrectly, and that's really what it is tuning. There's a fine line between motor running hot and motor skipping. That doesn't mean they're flat up against each other. There's a whole range in there that you can set where your motor will be maybe lukewarm to the touch, but have enough torque to overcome your printers. So X, absolutely, you can run that at a lower voltage. Y, depending on your printer, absolutely. If you're running linear rails on mine, it has to run a little bit warmer. The extruder, just whatever speed you need it to run at, you test it at that, and it doesn't burn. Like, none of mine burn me. I don't know, I've noticed the Creeality ones out of the box, they actually run hot for a lot of their printers. So, Richard, I think you actually, I don't think we formally did a full video on that. We just kind of did it while we were setting up a few of the printers. So if you look back at a couple of our Creeality reviews, you'll see, and I'll put a little pointing thing up here so Richard has to edit it later and put a little notation in there. But go check out one of those, and we did cover adjusting that motor voltage and how to do it. After that, your printer will still run fine.
Yeah. Bryan or Paul Cox, TL Smoothers for Ender 3, don't waste your money. I did.
Yeah,
I
they're
put them.
okay.
I put them on, and I actually put them on all 4 motors. Took it off the extruder motor first, then I slowly started taking them off the Z, the X, and the Y, and I saw no difference in print quality. They didn't make the machine any quieter, so don't waste your money. Even if they're only $5 or $7 or $3, don't waste your money, because they really, in the case of an Ender, because I think the machine is just too compact to make a difference. I mean, on a CR10, they may make a difference, but on an Ender 3, they make no difference whatsoever as far as I'm concerned. A couple things I want to plug real quick. Again, Brian, you're going to be with us next week, or am I on my own?
I might be able to join.
Okay.
We're going to have to see what we can do, because I will be... Actually, no, next weekend I should be here. Yeah,
Yeah,
I should
you'll
be
be
still
here.
here.
It's the week after you won't be.
I'm flying to Toronto on the Sunday, pretty early, so hopefully,
Gotcha.
hopefully I won't be up too late that night.
Gotcha. So, for those of you seeing Superman here, we are working on that. I have 3 episodes on painting this guy in the can. They are going, the first one will be up on Patreon tomorrow, or no, pardon me, Monday, the 15th. So this will be up on Patreon for our Patreon subscribers. And this is me teaching you how to paint your 3D prints. So the first episode, again, will be up on the 15th on the Patreon account, which is the first layer. All you have to do is go to Patreon. If you're not signed up, you can only get the painting tutorials at the $5 level. And again, all that goes into one big pot, and it helps us to upgrade everything that we need to in both of our studios and the studio that we have at Spool 3D. For those that are going to ask, yes, I am now an official employee of Spool 3D. I hadn't been up until the beginning of April. At the end of March, Derek asked me if I would be interested in becoming an employee, his first and only employee at this stage. And I am an employee at Spool 3D now. So I can do invoices, which is great.
Now we'll clarify too, this channel is not and never was owned by Spool 3D.
That's right.
So it'll still be completely independent. There'll be no bias there or anything. For us, it's just convenience factor, really.
Yeah, it's a convenience factor, and I pay a little bit less for my products now. I still don't get them at cost, but I don't have to pay full retail for them. So anything I need, I still have to pay for. But same thing with Bryan. The channel, for anybody that doesn't know, the channel is owned by my company, Cleveland Media Group, which Bryan is a part of, as well as Jess is a part of. I'm
an unpaid intern.
Yeah. As the company grows, well, we'll definitely get some money into everybody's pocket. 3D.
Gary's saying your odds are good for him.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Jerry's saying that he's retired. He wants to be an employee.
And then Gary's saying your odds are good for employee of the month, but you got to understand Richard's competing against the 3D printed inanimate rods. So
yes.
So it's going to be a tough race.
I'm also competing with 2 of the robots that we're building, so they may be better customer service than I am.
The non-functioning one especially.
Yeah, that's right. That being said, my friends, we've only got a couple of minutes here, so we're going to quickly wrap it up. Just a quick reminder, we do have Patreon starting on Monday. So if you want to get in on learning how to paint, go to Patreon, and that's where all of our painting tutorials will end up. A new one will be coming out every week. I've busted my hand, so there might be a couple of weeks while I'm still in recovery to get more videos out. But for the next 3 Mondays, starting on the 15th, there'll be a brand new episode. So kudos to that.
So in the meantime, I just wanted to give another shout out for our hashtag Year of the Maker, which we've been a little bit lazy on because the only thing we've been making is injuries for each other, it seems. But I got one for you guys tonight. As I mentioned earlier, I was printing a bracket on my new stupid but simple designs, and the one you're seeing here was spun out today to hold a set of digital calipers. So you just go use an M4 bolt, and an M4 nut, and you can screw that right into your extrusion, and that just acts as a simple holder. So I've got a whole bunch of them printing over here on my Ender 3, and just because I'm awesome, I guess, I just went and published it on Thingiverse. So I posted it to the chat there. You can go have a look at it there, download it, and let me know if anything doesn't work. So I'm going to try and publish a few designs as I go along. Obviously it's taking a little bit longer than expected this year, but yeah, go ahead and check it out on Thingiverse there. Give me some feedback.
I want to quickly plug our good friend Gus St. Kwan over at fab365.net. Go check out his Easter eggs. It's an all-in-one print. I'm printing 3 of them right now for Easter coming up next week, and I believe it's next week is Easter.
Oh man,
go check those out, and we'll be back with you guys here in another week. We've got a brand new episode coming out on Tuesday, and it was a little
this time we're serious about that.
Yeah. I have the episode almost all the way edited, but it's pretty tough editing with a hand that doesn't normally use a mouse.
So if anyone has a really good 3D model for a hand, send it to Richard, and maybe we'll print it out of Flexible and first slap him and then give it to him.
Yeah, there you go. Thanks, Bryan.
You're
With
welcome.
that said, guys, Jess is hosting Tuesday's episode, and we are building the brand new Anycubic Predator Delta printer with a 370 by 455 millimeter build volume. And it has been printing all weekend. I started it on Friday, and it is doing a Predator bust by our good friend Sergio Malik over at malix3design.com. Go and check it out. I think the Predator bust is only €4. So we appreciate everybody for coming and joining us tonight. We always love to see your smiling faces, or at least your smiling chats. And we appreciate all of you guys that support the show with your views. You don't have to support us monetarily. We'll still continue to do this. But I do want to remind you, if you want to get some swag, by all means, go to our Teespring store and check out the t-shirts and coffee mugs. If you guys have got coffee mugs now, and we really appreciate that. All of that little bit of revenue goes into helping us bring you a much better experience in 3D printing. So, thank you, Bryan.
Thank you, Richard.
It's always a pleasure having Bryan here with me. He keeps me on track. And the week that you're not here, maybe we'll have to bring somebody else in as a guest host. So if anybody wants to be a guest host on the week you're not around, let me know.
Well. Okay, I didn't say I wasn't going to be around. I'm just going to be a bit distant.
So
I'm just going to throw this out here. Maybe if a certain Canadian maker project is available in the Toronto area on that night, and I could steal his Wi-Fi, maybe we'll have a guest on scene.
Hey, that would be good. That'd be really good.
I can bring the webcams. I mean, I've got enough of them here,
There you go. So all of you guys have a great night, and please remember that the first layer is always your foundation to a great print. Until next time, my friends.